Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Laura Prada from the Telesur Studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with our top stories. You stay with us. And we begin talking about our Democratic Republic of Congo because authorities have confirmed the first Ebola case in the country's northeast region, where more than 1 million people live. The health ministry reported that the infected man is an evangelist who returned by bus to the city of Goma this Sunday after spending several days in the city of Butembo, one of the current epicenters of the disease. According to the authorities, the patient contracted the virus during his mission in Butembo, where he preached in 7 churches. The evangelist, as well as all passengers who travel on the same bus as him from Butembo, have been placed in isolation to prevent the disease from spreading.
We will also boost surveillance measures at entry and exit points to ensure that neighbors, other provinces and neighboring Rwanda are also protected. Measures will also be taken to ensure that these checks are effective so that it doesn't spread.
And the World Health Organization advised this Monday that the case of Ebola detected in the city of Goma in the Democratic Republic of Congo could present more challenges in containing the epidemic in the country.
The identification of the case in Goma could potentially be a game changer in this epidemic. Goma is a city of 2 million people near the border with Rwanda and is a gateway to the region and the world. We're confident in the measures we're put in place and hope that we will see no further transmission of Ebola in Goma. Nevertheless, we cannot be too careful. I have therefore decided to reconvene the emergency committee as soon as possible to assess the threat of this development.
Meanwhile, this weekend, the government of the Democratic Republic of Congo said it will not allow the use of new experimental Ebola vaccines. Health authorities said that due to the lack of sufficient information on the efficacy and safety of these new vaccines, no new trials will be permitted in the country. The DRC has been battling deadly outbreak that has so far killed over 16,000 people since August last year. Efforts to contain the disease have been hampered by lack of willingness by local people to be vaccinated. And now we move to the Caribbean because thousands of Puerto Ricans marched for a third day this Monday demanding the immediate resignation of the governor Ricardo Rosselló. The peaceful mobilization was strongly repressed with tear gas and pepper spray by government forces this Monday night. Since Saturday, citizens are protesting at the surroundings of La Fortaleza, the official residence of the governor, to claim for Rosselló's immediate departure. These massive mobilizations come after the appearance of 889 pages of leaked conversations in which Rosselló and members of his party make homophobic, sexist, and misogynal expressions of other politicians, other political leaders, and journalists. In Telegram, the members of the chat even laughed at the death caused by Hurricane Maria in 2017 and also mocked about dead independentist leaders. These images that you were watching right now are from this Monday night in the immediations of the fortress, La Fortaleza, the official governor house in Old San Juan in the center of Puerto Rico. And we continue in the Caribbean in Barbados, where the Venezuelan government delegation has returned to talks with the opposition. The head of the delegation and communication minister, Jorge Rodríguez, made the announcement via Twitter. Let's hear it.
Por el gobierno interino de Juan Guaidó a los diálogos de Venezuela dirigidos por el gobierno de Noruega. Desde hoy lunes ya están en este lugar las partes, esto de acuerdo al gobierno en disputa de Nicolás Maduro.
And following the announcement made by U.S. Department of Justice in Mexico, the Foreign Minister Marcelo Ebrard said that the new immigration law does not make Mexico a safe third country. Marcelo Ebrard said that such a decision has to be made by Mexico's Congress and not unilaterally by United States administration, adding that the new law stands against the principles of Mexican law.
This rule is a limitation on the right of asylum with which Mexico is not in agreement. We have a completely opposite legal principle, which is that asylum is political asylum in Mexico, and it's very improbable that Mexico would deny asylum to someone who is requesting it for reason of political persecution. Mexico's whole tradition has been in favor of that. No, this does not relate to a safe third country. Being a safe third country would require Mexico's National Congress to pass an agreement with legal implications. So, this cannot be done in a unilateral manner by the US. It is bilateral. It could be multilateral, but it cannot be done unilaterally.
And still in the Caribbean, the Dominican Republic, where people that took to streets over the weekend to protest against corruption and a proposed political reform. What is this about? What are those aspirations that Dominicans have? Well, Daisy Tucena, our correspondent in Santo Domingo, has the details for us in this story.
Once again, the Green March brought out thousands of people to demand that the authorities put an end to corruption and impunity.
This is a civic movement to demand that they give back the money they have stolen and that they implement policies for quality education, healthcare, housing and jobs with respect for the environment.
The march is also demanding a cap on fuel prices and the protection of natural resources, and it opposes a constitutional reform that would allow the president to stand for re-election.
We say absolutely no to this spirited reform that will allow the re-election of President Danilo Medina, who clearly wants to perpetuate himself in power, that undermines the democratic rights of the Dominican people.
The demonstration, called the Green March of the Kibao, aimed to revive the civic protests that have been the hallmark of this movement.
The Dominican Republic is going through a major crisis, which is political, economic and cultural. The ruling Dominican Liberation Party is sinking this country. It has plunged us into debt. More than half our GDP now goes to pay the external debt, which had become the eternal debt.
The march brought together opposition leaders, students, social movements and civil society groups. The Green March says it will stay in the streets until it puts an end to corruption and impunity and prevents this constitutional reform that could give President Danilo Medina a third term in office.
And from Dominican Republic now we go to a first break here in front of the. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Telestory English and on my account, of course, at Laura Fitness. You stay with us.
We have been present in all the events stirring our peoples. United for each transmission and in tune we bet on a new Latin American vision. Now we are also accompanied by the Caribbean people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Each day working for the best understanding and communication. Telesur, the news source from South America and the Caribbean.
And we begin with Africa and Asia news. Somalia is intensifying security after 26 people were killed in an attack on a hotel last week. The government of Somalia is on high alert and has mobilized security forces to increase surveillance in Kismayo, where the incident took place. The attack was the most severe since Allied forces dialogued with Al-Shabaab from the port city 6 years ago. A group of armed assailants detonated a car bomb at the hotel before storming the facility and engaging security forces in a gun battle that lasted more than 10 hours.
I call on security forces to increase surveillance to prevent a repeat of this kind of terrorist attacks, especially now as we are heading towards elections. I also appeal to the public to provide relevant information to security forces to thwart potential threats to security.
And now we go to Zimbabwe, where annual inflation rate hit 175% in the month of June. Official data showed this Monday. The inflation figures comes after fuel prices were raised by 16% on Saturday. Residents in Harare have raised concerns over rocketing food prices and long power cuts. Zimbabwe previously faced hyperinflation for 10 years until it abandoned the use of its own currency and adopted the US dollar along with other foreign currencies in 2009.
Life is becoming tougher for us because we do not have money to buy diesel, and the price increase means only those who are rich can afford it.
People are buying in small quantities, especially those who want to cook for their family. They come to buy a bottle of cooking oil to last 2 or 3 days while they look for more money.
And China has reiterated displeasure with planned United States arms sale to Taiwan. Beijing has promised to take firm actions against U.S. companies that violate previously agreed arrangements before the two countries.
U.S. arms sales are a severe violation of international law and norms. They severely violate the One China principle and the regulation of 3 Sino-US joint communiques. They harm China's sovereignty and national security. In order to protect national interests, China will sanction US companies that participate in selling weapons to Taiwan. China's government and Chinese companies will not cooperate or have commercial contacts with these US companies.
And the president of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, joined to the homage to the victims of the 2016 coup d'etat attempt. This marked the 3rd anniversary since a part of the military started an operation aiming to overthrow the government. During the coup attempt, at least 300 people were killed and more than 2,000 injured, with government buildings, including the parliament and presidential palace, being bombed from the air.
I salute with respect and fondness every member of our hero nation who stood in front of planes, tanks, bullets in order to protect our nation's independence and our country's future on the night of the 15th of July 2016. If today we can speak, breathe, work freely, it is thanks to our martyrs, our veterans, and our heroes.
Time for a second and very short break. You stay tuned with us. Back with Latin American and Caribbean news, hearing from the South, police in Honduras have continued to violently repress demonstrations by students who are protesting against attempts by the government to privatize the health and education sectors. The students who were set to march on a main boulevard were met with heavily armed police forces who fired rubber bullets and tear gas to disperse them. Various sectors of Honduran society have in recent weeks been protesting against the privatization plans, which they say are going to be hurt in the poor in the country, considered as one of the most unequal societies in Latin America. Impressive images those in Honduras. And in Peru, several indigenous communities gathered on Sunday in the region of Loreto to protest after an oil spill contaminated their water and lands. The protesters marched on the oil reservoir premises demanding basic services for their homes, such as clean water and sewage system. However, the state-owned oil company has reportedly accused the locals of intentionally rupturing the oil pipeline. The city of Lima declared a state of emergency after the oil spill, as it was reported to have affected about 1,000 households.
El Morona is a district where oil is extracted. There's been more than 40 years of oil exploitation here. Look at the state we are in. Without basic services, water or sewage, we don't have anything. There are 79 communities in El Morona. We must continue with this fight. We must not decline and support our leaders who are fighting in Station 5.
Now we move on to Bolivia because President Evo Morales has announced a 10-point emergency plan to fight violence against women. Among the different measures to protect women at risk, President Morales said that this plan would push for feminicides to be officially considered crimes against humanity. The president made the announcement surrounded by a number of ministers, lawmakers, and activists during a session of the Special Cabinet for Women. Morales said that the rate of feminicides in Bolivia is highly worrying and that the positive responsibility for eradicating it lies with both the government and the society as a whole. Bolivia has the highest rate of feminicides per capita in South America. Over 70 women have been killed due to gender-based violence in 2019 alone.
We have prepared an emergency plan made up of 10 points. We are declaring the fight against femicides and violence against women a national priority. During this meeting, we have prioritized the fight against femicides, and the plurinational state will continue to work the rights of women of all ages.
We continue now talking about Bolivia, but in other kind of information, because where the government is planning to include a group of young people on its official delegation to the UN Climate Summit. The meeting, known as COP25, will take place this time in Chile in the month of November. Let's know more about this group of young students and why they are being part of the official Bolivian delegation.
These young people are part of a group of about 2,500 who are taking part in a climate change program run by the state ahead of the 2019 UN Climate Summit.
I have a lot of faith in young people that we can participate in this open discussion encouraged by the government. It's a policy we need to take advantage of. This is the right moment.
We are at risk. We need to take immediate action and start a change.
Similar forums are taking place in 9 Bolivian departments. The youth are taking responsibility.
There are structural causes to explain what kind of economy we have, how we make the transition, and which countries have more or less responsibility for taking action.
Climate change will have consequences in the long and medium term, and yet it's us, the future generations, who are most affected. So this is a very good initiative to involve us as young people.
This is an unprecedented initiative. The Bolivian government has decided not just to inform young people about the problem, but to include them in the official delegation that will defend the country's positions at the intergovernmental negotiations.
This hasn't happened yet in other countries. They are talking about how to include young people, but so far they have just been observers sitting in the back. This will be the first time they are actually part of a country's delegation.
It is not just about how many tons we emit. We need to know the science in depth, but we also need to understand what development models produce this problem on our planet.
The United Nations Framework Agreement is a treaty that sets out the basic obligations of the 196 participating states, plus the European Union, to combat climate change. In November, its next conference, known as COP25, will take place in Santiago, Chile, and the Bolivian delegation will include 5 young people.
And from Bolivia, we move on to talk about Colombia because United Nations Security Council delegates that are visiting the country have praised former FARC members for their commitment to the peace process despite concerns over the government's adherence to the agreement. The Armed Forces of Colombia People's Army the FARC members and the government of former President Juan Manuel Santos signed this agreement in Havana in 2016, and now the government of Iván Duque haven't accomplished the fulfillment of the agreement, and more than 30% of the agreement haven't been implemented. So far in this year, in 2019, more than 140 former FARC members have been murdered since those agreements were signed in 2016 in Havana after many years of talks. Also, this report from United Nations Security Council will be released this July, about the end of this month of July.
But what I've seen is the sight of people who are fighting now in Congress, now settling their differences through talking. I've met ex-combatants who are trying to create a new life for themselves in the agriculture business, growing tomatoes, making a profit out of the land rather than fighting. And these are incredibly big achievements. So that seems to me the biggest thing, the fact of the agreement, the fact that people, whatever their differences, are still trying to make it work and are committed to making it work. And the fact that people have really laid down their weapons and are now engaging on a political level.
Now we go on to Guatemala, where President Jimmy Morales canceled his planned meeting with United States President Donald Trump at the last minute due to widespread rejection to his plan for Guatemala to become a safe third country. Yes, as we were talking at the beginning about Mexico. A safe third country is a country that forces migrants to seek asylum within their borders, invalidating them from doing so at their desired destination. Morales' decision to cancel his meeting comes after various appeals were made at the Constitutional Court to stop Guatemala from becoming a safe third country, on top of widespread rejection from across Guatemalan society. And before we end now, we want to go again to the Caribbean, specifically to the northeast of Cuba, where the International Jibara Poor Film Festival has come to an end. Let's take a closer look at how it showcased the unique work of filmmakers from around the world.
The Jibara Film Festival ended with the Best Film Showcase received the prestigious Lucia Award. Among those awarded was Puerto Rican actor Benicio del Toro, who received an honorary award for his many contributions to Latin American cinema.
I want to thank the people of Gibraltar for leading this festival and to all who work to make this beautiful dream a reality, the dream of Humberto Solás.
Over 50 films were in competition, coming from places as diverse as Germany, China, the United Kingdom, Canada, Spain, and Cuba. The Cuban-German collaboration El Viaje Extraordinario de Celeste García, directed by Arturo Infante, won in the category of Best Feature Film. Spanish actress María Isabel Díaz, who played the lead in the film, also won the award for Best Female Performance. The closing ceremony was held at the emblematic Jibá Movie Theater in Jibara's historic center. Here, Costa Rican director Ishtar Yacine Gutiérrez received the Best Director Award for her film Dos Fridas. Her film also won the award for Best Cinematography. It was based on the relationship between Mexican icon Frida Kahlo and her nurse. The Guibara Film Festival is not only an opportunity to showcase finished films, but there's a space for developing scripts and unfinished films to compete for funding. Festival director Jorge Perugorria also came out to thank everyone who made the festival possible and officially opened the submission process for next year's festival.
Thank you to all that have supported us during this difficult time for Cuba. I stand against the economic blockade imposed on our island.
Despite the 50-year-old U.S. blockade on Cuba, this competition continues, showcasing the best films from Cuba and from around the world.
From these Caribbean images and this tradition of cinema in the Caribbean also, we come to the end of this brief. Remember that you can find this and much more other stories on our website, as you are seeing it, telesurenglish.net, where you can find and read opinion articles, special interviews, and much more other information that we produce especially for you. Continue with us always with Telesur, connecting the global south. Until next time, thank you for watching.